Spore, probably more than any other game out there, is a perfect embodiment of the creativity that the AAA space used to be teeming with, and to illustrate what the exciting and vast world of gaming felt like at the time, let me tell you the story of how I went about obtaining it.
It's the end of 2008, a cold and snowy day. I spent weeks chipping away for my lunch money, and now I have enough cash to get a brand new game after school. And this won't be just any game. It'll be just any game, but on a DVD. I'm not one of those weaklings who can only afford the smaller CD games because they don't have the dedication and willpower to save up more money. Oh no. I'm patient, cold, calculated. My games require more than your pathetic 700 megabytes, 6 times more to be precise. Me and a friend spend all day in school looking forward to what's to come after. As soon as we're free, we make our way to the neighborhood plug. A man, probably in his 50s, who is always out on the street corner playing chess with his buddies. He takes us into the nearby alley and unveils it. The most magical item you could ever imagine as a 2008 12-year-old. A raggedy wooden folding desk with a cardboard box on it. The box packed, full of pirated game discs in flimsy mesh cases with home printed covers. I want them all. But I only have the equivalent of $2. Me and my friend take our time browsing through the DVD section, trying to make our pick based only and purely on the attractiveness of the poorly printed paper square covering the discs. The internet I have at home takes 2 hours to load a 240p compilation of satanic subliminal messages in Naruto. I can't do research beforehand. I wouldn't even know where to look. I'm going based purely off of instinct, my sixth sense if you will. Naturally evolved to somehow lead me to pick garbage, unplayable games 80% of the time. The man notices my indecisiveness and tells me about this new game that he's supposed to receive today. Supposedly a big one. Spore. He calls the big boss, the guy who brings the goods. Estimated time of arrival, 1 hour. My friend and I spend the next hour standing next to these old men playing chess on the street corner in freezing, snowy weather. Big boss finally arrives. We exchange the cash for the goods, and I head home. I'm walking to the most familiar place I know, yet I'm doing so excited to walk into the unknown. And imagine that unknown turning out to be fucking Spore.
No, none of this was actually exaggerated. This is exactly how it used to go down in the ghettos of Eastern Europe. The man, I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's alive now. For sure doesn't know I'm mentioning him in a foreign language 15 years later to hundreds of millions of people. God bless his soul, one of the nicest people I ever knew. The reason I told you about how I went about getting this game is because I think it illustrates how unpredictable games used to be back then. And there's really no better example for this than Spore. Every time I used to stop by this guy to get something new, I knew damn sure I was getting something new. Even if it was new mental scarring induced by Fantastic Four, the worst game ever made. Okay, so there was this room that the game just wouldn't let me get out of. Not like a puzzle room or anything, I just got stuck for some reason. So after days of losing my mind over it, I acted like the most mentally sane gamer and took a plastic sword, threw the disc on the bed, and absolutely just obliterated it with a sword. I'm not talking broken in like 2 or 3 pieces. I was hitting it until it basically turned into glitter. Gamer moment, am I right? There. I just felt like sharing that. You know me a bit better now. This is a core piece of Chrome Rot lore. My point is, there was a time when seeing EA, Ubisoft, or Activision in the loading screen got you excited. Hard to believe nowadays, I know. Gaming overall was this quirky niche thing for weird nerd kids as recently as just a decade ago. Comparatively speaking, very new form of entertainment that still wasn't exactly sure what it wanted to be, and these studios were the top dogs for a reason. Maxis, the studio behind Spore, is also known for stuff like The Sims and SimCity, all super innovative simulation games that give you tons of freedom. Of course, as with anything good, the studio crumbled into dust somehow and now only exists in name, but most of the people responsible for these games are long gone. Alright, let's get into the video. But how? How do you even do that? How do you begin talking about this game? Let's start from the beginning and go through how my journey with it went, revisiting it for this video. So right from the first moment you're presented with the main menu, it's nothing like the UI that gaming has settled into in present times. You have 8 planets that all say new game. That's too many choices for my systematically degraded attention span. I choose the first planet I see that has lots of green on it because I love my lush nature. Whoops, the green was actually a toxic sludge ocean covering most of this ugly, barren planet. I'm a single-cell organism trapped in some mineral stone. Stone breaks open and now I'm finally free to evolve, conquer, pillage, and eventually cause enough destruction to this peaceful planet of creatures living in harmony to bring total collapse of its ecosystems. Let's fucking go! I choose carnivore and start devouring other cells to grow. Killing a cell with a unique part lets you collect it and use it in your own evolutions. Can I just mention how cool this environment looks already? I can't even describe it, it's just super pretty and relaxing to me. I swim around bullying smaller cells and running away from bigger ones until I hit cell puberty and decide I'm done being a virgin loser. I let out a mating call to my Discord kitten. She shows up and shouting not only a baddie but also twice my size, so when she steps on my balls, it's time to pimp myself. First, I gotta get rid of this ugly ass coat of paint. I right click a color and wow, this opens up a whole palette of different shades. I have a feeling this is only a taste of the freedom and variety that's to come. I love my pastels, but definitely not in trypophobia form. I settle on this soft purple one and I'm not sorry. If you want to see one of those wacky, ugly builds where their mouth is where their blood is supposed to be, you can watch literally any other Spore video. Of course, I add a couple spikes too because it's tough out there. This is also where I found out you can scroll to change the size of any of your parts, and of course, instead of even trying it out on the spikes where it would actually make sense, I spent 10 minutes fiddling around with the size of my eyes. I add a little jet on the back for speed, name my species, and hatch, I guess. I immediately notice a very real difference in gameplay. I'm now much faster and my spikes make motherfuckers run away from me in fear. This goofy tries to play me and I don't let him get away with it. It's about sending a message. They try to gang up on me later, but surprise motherfucker, I'm grown now. I love how the growing happens seamlessly and all of a sudden a smart little fucking bully cell bitch that was testing me is not so big no mo, is he? Wait, this guy seems familiar. I hover over him and sure enough, it's another one of my kind, with all the features that I chose. This was honestly way more satisfying than it should have been. It caught me by surprise and I felt accomplished. Like, I wasn't just customizing myself, I did actually introduce a new species to the myriad of different looking cells, and the fact that it took me a while to come across it made it all the more impactful. I am definitely just trying to cuddle here. My first instinct was not to impale one of my own and cannibalize his flesh. I decide it's time for another round with my dominatrix, and this time I've got a few new things to choose from. I'm a bit skeptical about this omnivore mouth, but I put it on anyway and make it as big as it gets, and oh boy, this is a game changer. I sure hope these cells got health insurance, cause I ain't handing out all these prostate exams for free. I notice a brother getting attacked, but before I can step in, he just uses his mouth to suck them both dry. That sounds, I mean, They had to have known what the fuck this looked like, come on. I think the size of the mouth actually made a difference because I can just go straight up mouth on mouth with a cell twice my size and come out on top. The environment keeps changing as I grow and evolve, and now we're at this beautiful bright stage full of life with so many distinct looking cells. I don't remember Spore ever looking this good, to be honest, but I'm so impressed with how they gave this environment depth so it wouldn't just feel like a 2D fish tank or something. The blurred moving cells of varying sizes in the background, bubbles, shells, ripples, sound effects, it just feels very alive and fresh and constantly evolving. It's like you rarely ever see the same thing more than a few times. Whoops, we got a brain now. If my own experience is anything to go by, I guess this is where it all starts going downhill. So let's grow some legs, become sentient, and check out the next stage. Whoops again, my game crashed and I lost all progress. The game being experimental in a time when there still wasn't a winning formula means you also don't get some obviously good things like autosave. I decided to start over in a different planet because the one I initially chose was just disgusting. Remember when I said I'm not gonna be like everyone else and make a quirky, bizarre looking creature? Yeah, that's almost impossible. Not because you don't have the options to do so, but because you have so many that you're almost encouraged to go goblin mode in the creature creator. I haven't played the game in so long, and I guess I just assumed the super bizarre stuff I saw was by people modding or breaking the game somehow, but no, it is actually mind-boggling the amount of customization Spore gives you without ever holding back in fear of being broken. And this is just the first stage where I don't even have 1% of the body parts. I make a somewhat cute looking thing and I'm thrown into the vast and unfamiliar world. I actually feel like I'm this weak, dumb animal who has to find its way amongst an already existing ecosystem. The mechanics of this stage are actually pretty interesting. You have two stances, friendly and enemyly, which both have 4 moves each. To become allies with a species, you gotta mimic their moves, either by singing, dancing, charming, or posing. To obliterate a species into extinction, you can bite, charge, strike, and spit. You get these moves by adding certain body parts, which also dictate the level of each move. I start off nice and empathetic. I've got that omnivore mouth anyway, so I can just eat fruit and become friends with every species I come across. Because they're all so cute and helpless, and I could never bring myself to viciously destroy them and consume their flesh. 2 times. 2 is how many times I did this before I got clapped and swore on my mortal enemies. I vowed to come back when I'm strong enough and leave every single one of their bodies to rot into the ground. My first death taught me a valuable lesson. Only the weaklings are impressed by my lame-ass singing. This world is ruled by the strong, and they rule by force. The fact that I am kind of adorable doesn't mean shit. Until I grow strong, I will be nothing but prey. So time to get on my alpha male grind set and start nutting in my oatmeal. My pack is migrating, so I follow them to the location of our new nest, and let me tell you, these motherfuckers chose the worst possible place to settle. We are now next door neighbors with, get this, a mammoth and a dragon. Talk about irresponsible parenting. Jeez, I can't even go 20 feet from our nest to explore without getting trampled by a fucking mammoth.
I know what to do though.
I'm dropping the nice guy act. That's right, carnivore mouth. I think I followed the pack too early because I'm now surrounded by high-level enemies and keep dying whenever I try to do anything. I'm also now a carnivore who is literally the weakest animal in the area. Now, if you do the math, it means I don't have food. But after lots of trial and error, I find some better parts and get to a place with lower level species so I can kill enough of them to level up a bit. I felt so bad for these poor little things who were just trying to mind their own business. The image of me chasing their babies to devour them while they were all running away screaming is now etched into my mind. My mind is like Etch-a-Sketch though, so as soon as the cheery level up animation played, I forgot all about the atrocities I'd committed on an innocent family 2 seconds ago. This experience helped me develop a moral compass though. From now on, I was making friends with any species willing to reciprocate the friendliness and hunting only those who were aggro with me from the get-go. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was just a lab rat being experimented on, and this game was secretly giving me these moral dilemmas to collect data on me. As I became stronger, I also became more merciful. My favorite thing was to ally up with the weak underdogs, take them under my wing and protect them, while also making it a point to avenge my fallen comrades in case they were killed. No, why are you showing that? You were supposed to cut. Don't think I've forgotten about my arch nemesis. I'm not strong enough to exterminate them yet, but I send a message by ganging up on a couple of their young ones before retreating. I keep hunting, making friends, and evolving until the species I was once scared of become easy prey. I'll never get tired of this in games. I love becoming OP and going back to get revenge on enemies that were once untouchable. Just like in real life when I went back and killed all of my childhood bullies, it's time. I only have one kill left to drive fucking Chumbu to extinction, and at this point, it's like crushing a cockroach. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. No, wait.
Here it is, the ultimate creation. Oh my god, bro. Oh,
The internet has somehow made it so that the first thing I think of when I look at this is inflation furry porn instead of like Barney or something. I'm basically on top of the food chain right now. The gameplay loop is repetitive, but I didn't really feel like it overstayed its welcome. By the time you start kind of getting bored of it, you can already advance into the next phase, and at that point, it's your choice if you want to keep going here to tackle some of the bigger enemies like the dragon or mammoth, or just advance right away. I'm also pretty sure the game throws you a fair bit of fun surprises along the way. I loved stuff like finding the wreckage of a spaceship signaling intelligent life in the universe. There was also a random meteor shower at some point, and I realized this thing shoots you up in the air. A giant beetle UFO flew above us and fucking beamed some random animals up there. There's no shortage of fun discoveries to be had along the way of leveling up. There's this cool thing between every evolution that shows you your entire journey on a timescale of tens of millions of years. Apparently that merciful thing I was talking about earlier was total bullshit I deluded myself into believing, and I'm basically the most bloodthirsty carnivore out there. Your choices to make allies or hunt other species give you unique abilities in every stage of the playthrough based on where you place, which I thought was pretty cool, and considering I've hit rock bottom, I have all the destructive warfare abilities. I actually didn't mean to go this route. I don't usually like playing as a bad guy in games, so in this stage I feel like turning my life around. I am a reformed, born-again dragon. I made sure to apply the drip that gave me social skills and decided to favor that approach. I'm just gonna spoil this right away. It didn't work. I don't know if I just dug myself too deep, but every tribe I came across wanted smoke, so smoke I had to provide. The way this stage works is similar to the previous. You come across other tribes and befriend them or destroy them. However, there's a lot of new mechanics added this time around, so the gameplay loop feels entirely fresh. First thing I discover is not every creature you see is in a tribe. These random ass species around you aren't even programmed to know that they're basically there only so you never run out of food. I accidentally spit at these fools and they don't even really retaliate, but I discover I can still use the spit attack, which is interesting because you need a special body part from the previous stage to be able to do that, and I wasn't sure if your creature's body parts really played any role in the tribe stage, but it seems like they do. So I make my way to this tribe that's marked on my map, and I'm kinda shocked that they're the same species as me. Turns out all other tribes are. This is a stage where I've basically advanced my species to the point where internal cliques formed and are now independent of each other. I try to be friendly with them before I figured out the camera controls, sorry, but they rate my attempt a 1. A 1! In the previous stage you added body parts to unlock moves, and in this one you build buildings to unlock tools. This tribe demanded a didgeridoo performance, and I didn't have any of those, so I begrudgingly start walking back to my base. Now this is where I think I fucked up. I see some fisherman dude carrying back loot, and without really realizing he's part of the tribe,
Hey yo, what the fuck?
I of course kill him and steal his loot.
But the blame wasn't entirely on me, as soon after they send a spy to steal food from us. We of course take care of him, and this is when the relationship icon goes from yellow to red. There's no fixing this toxic relationship now, it's either kill or be killed. And of course they are the first ones to begin sending forces our way. This is a big difference to the previous stage. Other tribes now interact with you on their own accord, and they can invade you, try to steal your food, probably also help you in some way, but I wouldn't know that. If you send too many tribe members away from your base, wild animals will also appear to steal your food. I try to befriend the other cluster of animals to see if I can... Look, let him to die on my behalf. I go and give one of them food, and guess what happens? I own it now. I just domesticated some random creature and it's now my pet. As far as I see, I can't do anything special with a pet other than use it as emergency food, but it's still so cool that I can have one. Oh, by the way, I accidentally placed a trap later and half of its dumbass family members flocked to it, so from that point on, they too became a food source. The tribe stage plays a bit more like a strategy game. I can select individual members and give them tasks. Every time you defeat, or I guess befriend another tribe, you learn some of their technology and unlock new tools. You can then select members and give them these tools. In the beginning it's only axes, but by the end you unlock spears, torches, 3 instruments, as well as fishing rods and healing poles. I'm not just a walking talking red flag making up excuses as to why I'm killing everything that gets in my path. I swear every tribe after the first one was antagonistic towards ours from the get-go. So what I kept doing was tactically picking off their tribe members when they ventured out to attack us, and then attacking the weakened tribe to destroy it. To think that I'm now at war with my brothers, when once upon a time we would unconditionally have each other's backs, even back when we haven't yet grown backs to have each other's of, just by the fact that we look the same. Our unity originating way back in our single cell days was breaking apart, and it was all my fault. Members die a lot more often in this stage, and I notice it doesn't feel as big of a deal as it used to. I'm suspecting this will only get worse in the upcoming stages, and at a certain point deaths will only appear as numbers on my screen. Are you noticing it yet? How this fictional world so effortlessly emulates our own? Or how easy it is to simulate the entirety of the human experience from individual to society using nothing but some basic parameters? Is the funny feeling of perhaps being nothing but a bunch of code in someone's game setting in yet? I know it is for me. Civilization stage. This orange thing I discovered shoots you up in the air earlier is actually a spice geyser, wow, fantastic word, that actually serves a purpose now, because spices be worth good moolah in this stage, and of course we will exploit Mother Nature for profit until we squeeze every last drop we can. We got a whole ass city now. I still just love zooming in to see the mundane, everyday activities my people get up to. Every stage feels like a natural expansion to the previous one. It's not brand new gameplay every time, instead it feels like the gameplay evolves alongside your species. Each stage adds just enough flair to keep things interesting and fresh, while also keeping the core that it spent the previous stages building. You have just as much customization with the objects in this stage as you had with your creature previously. You designed 4 unique buildings in this one: town hall, house, entertainment hub, and factory, as well as 3 distinct vehicles: land, water, and air. You can spend hours in this creator, although having played through the whole stage, I have to say I'm not sure it'd be worth it. When you design your creature in earlier stages, you spend a lot of time afterwards being up close and personal with it, seeing and making use of every body part you choose to include, so I really felt like it was worth it, spending time to achieve the optimal golden ratio cheek diameter for my creature. The city simulation part of this stage, however, doesn't feel as important and fleshed out as it could have been, so spending a lot of time on the buildings doesn't really pay off. Every house expands your vehicle capacity by 1, factories are there to earn money, and entertainment centers to stop people from killing themselves from the misery of being cogs in the machine, slaving their days away in factories to earn their supreme leader, me, enough money to start wars and send their children off to die. So there is this happiness stat, but it's way too easy to get it to a good level if you just don't place 50 factories in your city, and even if you do, I didn't really feel like the bonuses you get from happiness played a noticeable role in the stage. It is nice to see your people celebrating though. You also can't customize the layout or look of your city grounds other than adding some decorations. So overall, the city simulation is pretty bare bones, nowhere close to something like Maxis' own SimCity. One thing I absolutely have to mention though,
The sound tab. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about variety, with an unimportant detail that adds a tremendous amount of character. You can actually customize your city's theme sound. What other game lets you do this? You can mix and match beats, ambient sounds, and create your own fucking jingle, as in add and remove individual notes, for fuck's sake. I was so surprised to discover this, and I loved playing around with it for 14 hours straight. We're still absolute savages, but being civilized means we get to hide it better by putting on some nice suits and a funny hat. We are now ready to probably cause some more mayhem, but look good doing it. So building the city isn't exactly the focus of this stage. Like in the previous stages, the main thing is in how you interact with other cities. Remote communication is a thing now, so you can just FaceTime another leader and hit the doogie on them while your army is carpet bombing their city. I went out of my way to be friendly with my neighbors for once, and we established trade routes, which was pretty cool. I finally had some allies and was ready to expand through collaboration rather than destruction. Oh, what's that? My first and only ally got wiped off the map by someone else. This is what I'm saying, it's always easier to dominate through force in this game and also real life. The Red City was an absolute nuisance, definitely public enemy number 1 throughout this playthrough, but I'm not giving up on my pacifist ways. Blue Nation has cool church music coming out of it for some reason, so I decide to give them money and compliment them, which instantly propels me to ally status. I'm feeling so generous that I even send some money to the green guys. But then what happens when blue wants me to declare war on green? Well, I refuse, so I lose blue as allies, only for green to ungratefully demand money from me.
The fuck you say to me, you little shit?
Which I also refuse because fuck you, rude. This game is just dead set on teaching me how unfair life is and how your closest friends will stab you in the back first chance they get. There's so many fucking air raid sirens in this one whenever you're attacking a city or being attacked, and I have to say, I did not appreciate getting an uncontrollable adrenaline spike every 10 minutes, but it did kind of make the conflicts feel real, and I mean like in a man-made horrors beyond my comprehension sense. You can just zoom into a city being attacked and hear the screams of panicking citizens overlaid on top of the already anxiety-inducing sirens. Like I predicted, death isn't even a thing in this one. You just lose vehicles, but as long as you've got enough money, which I always did, you can insta-spawn replacements for any vehicle lost and immediately send it back to the meat grinder, so you can just keep swarming the place you're attacking until it falls. It took like an hour for this to click in my idiot brain, so I struggled a lot in the beginning to overthrow the main neighborhood pest, but once I did, it was basically smooth sailing from then on. Rinse and repeat, but with a bigger military power every time because I now had more cities under my control. 4 cities in, you get planes. You also have these 4 icons on the bottom unlocking as you progress, and boy, we'll get to those. Damn. I left myself on a cliffhanger. That was the last thing I wrote more than a year ago when I wrote this video, and we all know I forget everything about a piece of media the instant the credits start rolling. But yeah, those are nukes, and they're very taboo. Do you end up using them anyway? Yes. So I'm not even going to try to decipher my notes and remember what playing the space stage felt like. The final stage of this game is pretty much an endless management sim, and about as far as you can get from the charm of the initial stages. There's more than a few profound observations that I got from Spore, which in itself is something I can't say I got from many games. One of these is the realization that I find a lot of joy in small, simple things. Spore has pretty much the same standard of quality all throughout, but while I was still impressed by the game in later stages, I found myself less emotionally invested the more macro it became. I feel like there's a reason why the medieval setting is still so prevalent in games. We find comfort in this sweet spot period of human history because this is where individual human influence peaked. And yeah, statistically you would have probably been a peasant or a slave who died in his 30s from a disease that is now treatable, but that's not really what we think of when we look at history. We think of the people that stood out, heroes,
inventors, and people who single-handedly pushed humanity forward. Technology has made modern human life too grand and confusing. Military systems of today consist of countless, incredibly complex mechanisms designed by thousands of the world's most brilliant engineers, all dedicating their entire careers to their tiny individual contribution to the greater machinery. You will not be remembered for being one of a team of 1,000 people who pushed night vision technology a marginal step further, even though it took you a lifetime of education and research to accomplish. We are simply beyond the point where it is possible to be a hero or stand out as a single individual, beyond the point where there's any semblance of a fair fighting chance. You cannot rebel against the king anymore. You can't discover something monumental by just observing your surroundings, sitting below an apple tree or looking at mold. You can't fight against injustice and bring power to the people, because at every step you would take, there's 1,000 ways for you to be stomped out like a cockroach. Whether it's by elaborate surveillance systems powered by identity recognition programs that you don't even remotely understand, or by making the wrong online search or social media post on these platforms that you have no idea about how they actually work and the amount of data they have on you. Your phone is only private until the government needs your info, at which point they can either pick up a remote and drop a shell on your ass while eating a sandwich, or generate an AI video of you doing pretty much anything indistinguishable from reality to ruin your entire life and reputation. We live in a world that we as a species understand better than ever, but one that has ironically never before been so unfamiliar to the average person. The machine is just too big for you to matter anymore, and it's hard for history to remember people who don't matter. Our planet hosted 1/10 of today's population just as recently as Napoleon's time. So, how does this tie into Spore again? There's something beautiful about playing as a single-cell organism in your microcosmos, or a creature with its own little community interacting with other little communities. Yes, it's still kill or be killed, but the playing field is equal. There's no technology, budgets, military, vehicles, surveillance, weapons of mass destruction, etc., etc. Spore makes you realize how these things, in and of themselves, are kind of just a projection of innate human nature, only magnified in scale. Tribes evolved into cities, stone axes into guns, but the need to protect what you decided belongs to you, destroy and conquer what belongs to others, and be the strongest and biggest around has always been hard-coded in our brains. And that kind of ties into my second observation, which is how stupidly easy it is to emulate human behavior to a T with 2008 game programming technology. The parallels between Spore and real human society are uncanny and bizarre. I'll let you decide the implications of that. Overall, Spore still holds up beautifully. It just made me think of a different time when the top dog studios were competing in creativity, which seems like ancient history at this point. There's usually two camps among gamers, people who think modern gaming sucks and those who think it's never been better. I'm somewhere in between. I think we just learned to ignore a lot of the flagship products in the industry, which in itself is kind of a weird thing to have to do. The CODs, FIFAs, and Ubisoft checklists have become boring to complain about. We just sort of accepted that that's what the market wants and started looking towards indies for innovation. But those games still make up a huge chunk of the total money being put towards games because they are still the ones topping the charts, which is a shame because imagine all the crazy shit we could have had right now if the big guys weren't so risk averse. The early 2000s, a time I keep gushing about, is so dear to me because the creativity resulted in like 10 or 15 classic releases per year. I don't think gaming is anywhere near its full potential, but that being said, I am still hopeful. We've been having some good releases lately, most notably Baldur's Gate 3, even though it's not really my type of game, was a massive project that was also really good. And I'm not even gonna count any Japanese games because those guys been carrying the industry for a while now. And it's been a while since I've been as excited as I am for Dragon's Dogma 2, so definitely subscribe for videos on that. Anyways, if my whole spiel about the military-industrial complex and the inevitable collapse of society didn't get you too depressed and you still enjoyed this video, maybe toss a coin my way on Patreon, and I'll talk to you very soon.